Let's do this.
Good morning, and welcome to the Unleashed Media and Talk Show with Daryl Arnold.
Oh, hell yes.
This is the show where we talk about everything.
What the hell?
Well, almost.
From today's news, culture, entertainment, real life, real people, and the stories everybody's talking about. And no, we don't do it in some tiny glass bubble. We do it the only way we know how. Real and completely unleashed.
Fire the hole, fire the hole, fire the hole.
So lean in and let's go right now.
Give me a hell yeah. What?
Hello. It is Hump Day Wednesday, midweek madness. My name is Daryl Arnold. You've tuned into the Unleashed, Uninhibited, Unapologetic, Unleashed Media and Talk with Daryl Arnold. And again, that is Wednesday, June 3rd, ladies and gentlemen, midweek. I hope your week is going well. We got a lot of stuff we're going to talk about today and unpack on the Unleashed show. And again, thanks to all of our sponsors and thanks to all of our listeners, whether it be social media platforms or on the podcast at Apple, Spotify, Podbean, iHeartMedia, iHeartRadio, Amazon, Google, and much more. Those podcast numbers, I only brought the podcast back about 10 days ago, maybe 12 days ago, with only 3 of those shows per week. And we're already above 10,000 views. I just want to say thank you, especially to the other states, but of course, our state, Mississippi, Mississippi. All the patriots out there, 6:33 in the morning, wake up, get dressed. It's time to move. And again, today's Wednesday. So that means the first Wednesday of the month, we will be at Grip and Grin at Mama Hamil's on Highway 51 in Madison Ridgeland. About 11 o'clock. I always tell people to get there early, get a seat for fellowship. Great times. Of course, great food. It's Mama Hamil's. And then you'll get to hear from your leaders, your leadership, and you'll get to fellowship with the rest of everyone that's involved with this Grip and Grin event that happens the first Wednesday of every month. I'll see you there for sure. I will be there. And hopefully I'll see all of y'all there. That's what we like. And that's what we hope. Good morning to the Russ man. I know I will see him at Grip and Grin. As we always have our seat there. Me, Russ, Craig, Jimmy Nichols. Of course, this wonderful event, Bruce Bartley and the rest of the crew that does this every single month like clockwork. A lot of elections coming up, a lot of elections going on. A lot of elections went on last night, especially in California. But of course, California has the bogus mail-in ballots. So it takes weeks, okay? Maybe months. Can you imagine that? Maybe months for them to, quote, count the votes in California. There's a lot of shenanigans that go on in that state. And voting has always been one of them with all the mail-in crap. They mail out ballots to everybody that's ever voted there, period, whether they live there or not anymore. This is the type things that President Trump's been talking about since 2015 when he was running for president the first time. This is unfair. This is a scam. It's always been a scam. And, they've, quote, changed the law so many times, but yet it's still freaking happening. Why? Tell me why. I would like to know why. Well, anyway, you can't tell me why because you know, I know, we all know that it's BS and it's a scam. However, last night the early votes rather, they have to wait on all the other millions. But the early votes came in with Karen Bass, the horrible, ranked worst mayor in the country. It's a three-way tie between that Brandon guy in Chicago, Zoran the moron in New York, and Karen Bass in Los Angeles. Well, they have a jungle primary. That means it doesn't matter if it's a Democrat, Republican, they're all on one ballot. You just vote. Those are I don't agree with those, but those are the way some states do it. Anyway, Karen Bass came in first so far, and Spencer Pratt, thank God, came in second so far, which means they will go head to head. And in California, it doesn't even mean, two Democrats, because of the jungle primary and the jungle election, two Democrats can run against each other. Well, thank God Spencer Pratt came in a strong second, so I believe it's going to go down to those two. And people are on to the BS in California, especially Los Angeles, where Spencer Pratt has been telling them the truth now for the last year and just hammering the hell out of the government, which being Gavin Newsom scum, and also Karen Bass, the present mayor, who is horrible. I mean, just literally does nothing except anything to do with something that is common sense. She does the opposite, which we're quite used to with the current progressive party that's out there, the Democrats, because they're not your grandparents' Democrats. We say that all the time. And why we say that is because it's the truth. It's the actual truth, period. And that's what's going on, ladies and gentlemen. That's what's been going on for a long time. California has not had Republican leadership in so many years that it's unbelievable. It really is unbelievable. But that's what happens, ladies and gentlemen, when you allow open borders and when you allow foolish people and you allow progressive liberals to take over your business because they have no clue. Everything we believe in, the conservative party, whatever, even the middle of the road, everything that the middle of the road people believe in, they throw it out the window immediately and start in with the shenanigans. So we'll be talking about California on and off all morning. Right now, though, we want to talk about some other things to get this thing going on. Yesterday, the Supreme Court, this is big. This is real big. The Supreme Court green-lighted Alabama's GOP-friendly, conservative-friendly redistricting effort after granting an emergency appeal a little while back. So, what does that mean, you say? Well, it means that now, after the Supreme Court spoke, they allowed Alabama to move forward with the plan to implement a new congressional map. That's what it means. Which therefore boosted Republicans ahead of the November midterm elections. The new map is expected to give Republicans an extra seat in the state's delegation. Further adding to the further adding to the conservative GOP's gain nationwide in the redistricting war. So Alabama's new map will give Republicans an advantage in one of the state's two Democrat-controlled congressional districts. Of course, good. Also, the Louisiana ruling established now guidelines for considering race, decreeing that majority minority districts should be drawn only if the racial group is large and compact, politically cohesive, and facing hostility from voters in the state's majority, which this is not happening. This is what they try to sell you, and they've tried to sell you this. Well, actually, it did originally happen. That's why this voter rights deal was happening exactly 60 years ago in 1965. Well, it's not 1965 anymore. They just try to ride that train so they can gather votes. That's what they've done all this. So my question now is this. Mississippi, you were called out by Trump. So what is your excuse now? What is the excuse? Seriously. But this is another significant ruling in the ongoing redistricting battles. I still want to know what Mississippi's deal is, though. I know they have, quote, excuses, and I know we have scheduling issues due to we already had our primary early, and it would take a certain amount of days to set up another primary, and there's a wait period that you have to go through, which is in the Mississippi state laws. So, not going to necessarily point out everybody, but we missed the boat on this one. How did we let that happen? How did we let it happen? All I know is there was a remarkable shift in this country in all of these latest primaries. There's been a remarkable shift because people are fed up with the BS. They're fed up with the progressive, green, liberal fanatics. That's just all there is to it. Steve Hilton, going back to California. Steve Hilton, love that guy. Literally advancing to the November. He took the lead last night in the crazy jungle for governor because, Gavin Newsom, I guess he thinks he's going to run for president, but he can't be governor again. But Steve Hilton took the lead over Xavier Becerra in California's governor race. And I believe after all the votes were counted at the end of the night, he is, in fact, going to advance. Now, that's the first time a Republican running for governor in California could win since, 20 years ago, Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'll be back. And he wasn't even a really good Republican anyway. He was kind of middle of the road, Democrat disguised as Republican. But these are things that are important, especially the green light for the Supreme Court in Alabama, which they green lighted Mississippi too. Okay. And back to Mississippi. There's a lawsuit right now that was filed against Mississippi because we take 7 days after the election to count votes. Okay? This is unacceptable. Election day, like one of the Supreme Court justices actually quoted, when you say day, like election day, that's like Independence Day. That's like Christmas Day. That's like Thanksgiving Day. So what everybody wanted is the day to be election day. That's why it was set up that way. So everybody needs to green light that the day and get rid of the waiting period. That's how cheating happens, whether you want it to or not. That's how counts get screwed up, whether you want it to or not. It's just the truth, you know? And I'm not blaming it on one person. It's been going on forever in Mississippi. But it's absolutely horse, beep. And even NBC last night was saying due to the late arriving mail in votes arriving up to a week later, Steve Hilton could lose. I mean, really? Again, SCAM. Hello. Hello. I don't know. They said there'll be a flood of ballots coming in the wee hours of the morning. This has got to stop, y'all. They are perfectly capable, even with that many people in their state, to get rid of the mail-in ballot crap. They're perfectly capable of counting the votes on the day and the night of the election, okay? People want to go to bed at night knowing who they voted for either won or lost. That's just what they want. And that's the way it was. At this point, we have a national emergency, in my opinion, with our elections. We just do. The Reverend Jordan, a black gentleman, said, "Hey, why does California take a week to count ballots while Florida does it in hours?" I mean, really, think about that. Why does California take weeks, if not a month sometimes, y'all, to count votes, and Florida does it in a couple of hours, and before you go to bed, you know what's up?
Saying is that California's elections are a joke, even though it looks like Spencer Pratt will go to a runoff. I just have a question. Why is it that in my state of Florida, where we have we have close to the same amount of, we have a huge state just like California, that we can count our votes in a few hours, have the entire early votes. We have mail-in ballots. All those can be counted. We can know who's going to win each election. Like for our governor's race, it'll be counted that night. You won't have overnight a bunch of mail-in ballots roll in, or in our Senate race, you'll know exactly that night. Why is it that in California, they have such a hard time counting votes? They have such a hard time counting ballots. And why is it that when the ballots finally do come in, they are mostly Democrat?
It's called cheating. It's called cheating. The public does not trust California anymore. And do you blame them? Do you actually blame them? No. You shouldn't blame them. I'm not saying don't go vote because it's even more important now to vote. But it's more important than that to take 10 people with you when you go vote. Call them up, carpool, offer them a ride, whatever it takes, ladies and gentlemen. That's how important the midterms are. Now, not later, right now. Scott Pelley, a veteran, and I do mean a veteran anchor for 60 Minutes, he's done. I mean, he's always been a pompous ass Democrat anyway. But the media's civil war is now out in public in the open. When Scott, the veteran anchor, publicly clashes with management and etc., and the ownership and the new leadership and all that, allegedly has been shown to the door. The real story may not be what the media is reporting. It may be what's behind the scenes, but the fake news is falling apart is the real story. Okay? This is the Daryl story, Darrell. That's the real story. The fake news, generally speaking, in 60 Minutes has definitely been pushing their agenda for 30 years. And the fake news is falling apart. It's exactly what's happening. So you can believe it or not believe it, but you heard it here. You heard it here. Most conservatives stopped watching 60 Minutes years ago. Now, every once in a while, they have a good story as far as animals, wildlife, etc. But nobody watches it pretty much anymore anyway. So they're making a big deal out of this. Probably to get more viewers because their viewership is so low compared to 20 years ago. And egos, of course, that were cemented years ago into these narcissist, liberal, fake news organizations. But again, it is about time that these loudmouth media a-holes start getting fired for their big mouths and their big lies. So I want to see more of this. I want to see more of this. They all suck anyway at CBS. Haven't watched the CBS morning news in decades. I haven't. You know, and the Sunday night before Election Day in 2016, they had the lying duo of Dr. Anthony Fauci. To promote the Zika virus vaccine propaganda, which started all the downhill from there. That was 4 or 5 years before, quote, COVID-19. Anyway, bookmark that. Another one bites the dust. Literally. You can text message me on the text line. This segment, the text line, is brought to you by Mobility Medical on Lakeland Drive, Flowood, Jackson. That's mobilitymedicalinc.com. My text number is 601-918-8409, 601-918-8409. And we'll be talking about that a little bit more here later as we move on in this episode. You can bookmark all these episodes on your podcast, or you can bookmark them underneath on social media such as Facebook at Daryl Arnold MS, at Unleashed Media, and Talk with Daryl Arnold on Facebook. You can click the little save, and you can do the same thing on YouTube. YouTube is also Unleashed Media and Talk with Daryl Arnold. So, the decline of the music business, we're going to talk about that a little bit later. We don't really agree with the decline being anything to do with talent. I don't personally. Still a lot of talented people in the music industry and business and artists. But what is the problem is too much political noise with musicians, especially the brimstone, firestone, far left, progressive idiots. And then, of course, the economy as far as the rip-off artists such as Ticketmaster, Live Nation, etc., and so on, which is not, for the most part, the artist's fault. Not taking up for all of them because some of them love price gouging, but those two organizations for sure, Ticketmaster, Live Nation, whatever, and many more of those type, even local organizations that quote sell tickets with all these fees, it's price gouging, ladies and gentlemen, which will never be admitted. And some people will argue with me, and that's okay. I'm good with that. But it's not because of talent. I do want to put that out there. Now, we all agree to disagree on some talent. We like some, we don't like some. We like some, we don't like some. That's free will, that's free country, that's whatever. You can listen to whoever the hell you want to, as far as I'm concerned. But on the bigger level and even on the small level, the pricing is affecting, everyone. It's just a fact. We're going to take a quick break and we shall be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Every program in the Next ecosystem is designed to meet people where they are and take them where they want to go, in technology and in life. Mississippi Coding Academies is a nonprofit that bridges the digital divide, delivering accessible, affordable, and life-changing technology education across the globe. Funded by grants and donations that are truly making an impact at home and abroad. Learn coding, cybersecurity, and so much more with locations around the state of Mississippi. Go to mscoding.org today and go to your next level.
Support for these programs comes from Electrical Solutions and Services in Pearl, Mississippi, providing licensed electrical contracting services throughout Mississippi for commercial, industrial, and residential projects. Also installations, system upgrades, troubleshooting, and emergency electrical repairs. As certified installers for Tesla, charging systems, and a certified dealer for Generac backup power solutions, their team delivers safe, code-compliant workmanship with a commitment to precision and integrity. They are veteran-owned. Their phone number is 769-572-7597.
You are listening to WPBP 104.3 FM, The Pirate, Pearl, Mississippi.
Welcome back to the Unleashed Media and Talk Show with Daryl Arnold. And yes, he's still unapologetic.
Yeah. Welcome back. It is Wednesday morning hump day, midweek, June 3rd, 2026. My name is Daryl Arnold. You've tuned into the Unleashed, uninhibited, unapologetic, Unleashed Media and Talk Show. Yes, mouthful. 7:01 in the morning, and that's AM, and that is Central Time, ladies and gentlemen. We've talked about this many times on this show, but they say, or at least they say, that the daylight savings time is going to just stay locked in at daylight savings time. I don't know if they've actually voted on that yet, but that's what they're saying. That's what they're saying, actually. So, we shall see, of course. They've been, because, and the reason I say we shall see is because they have been literally talking about this for years and years. Because, quite frankly, it's just dumb at this point. I know we got better things to think about and do. I get it. But it wouldn't take that long just to vote, be done with it. Screw a bunch of changing the time. Just forget about it. Mexico. Let's talk about Mexico. We're going to talk about something that a lot of you may not even know because it's been happening since 1988. That long, ladies and gentlemen, 1988. And most people have never taken civics when it has to do with freaking Mexico. But in Mexico, even in Mexico, and you'll see the point of this particular segment real shortly here. But even in Mexico, they require a voter VOTER, a voter ID to cast any ballot in any election in Mexico. It has been required since the rigged 1988 presidential election of Mexico. Now, if Mexico can do this, of all places, if freaking Mexico can require a voter ID, voter ID, then so can the freaking United States pass the damn Save America Act. But this has been required since 1988 in Mexico. For real. And it's not even a driver's license. You have to have a voter photo ID. And then people over here are going to scream about blah, 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 blah. But yeah, other countries, ladies and gentlemen, I guess they have more common sense than some people over here do. That's the only thing I can think of.
Over voter ID laws in several states, including Texas, has sparked a lot of conversation online. And one of those conversations caught our eye. This meme, which has been widely shared on Facebook, suggests that voters in Mexico must have a photo ID to vote and must enroll and show proof of citizenship in order to get this card. So is this claim true? We ran it through our trust index to find out. It's a meme that has been posted by several users online and claims that voters in Mexico must apply and receive an ID before being able to vote. We asked UTSA Associate Professor of Political Science, Milena Ang, to tell us more about photo IDs in Mexico.
Right now, it is one of the main, if not the main, way of identification, medium of identification for Mexicans. So driver's licenses, for example, they're not as widely accepted as is voter ID.
Professor Ang says Mexico implemented voter IDs after the controversial 1988 presidential election, in which the results were rigged. To help the public trust the voting process, the Federal Electoral Institute was created, and a national voter ID was born.
Panel for some final thoughts.
Yes. So You're going to tell me that Mexico can do this, but the United States can't pass the Save America Act? I mean, this is bizarre. It's the reason our politicians don't want, apparently, the Save America Act. At least the Democrats don't want it anyway. And actually, some of the so-called Republicans, the rhinos, is because if they implement these changes, there will be a radical shift in election outcomes. Yeah, it will show that the people don't want you there. It will show that. It also proves, like with a capital letter on proves, that our majority leader is as corrupt or more than the Mexican cartel at this point. That's what it proves. So think about that. And this goes for local too. You better start holding people accountable locally in your state, not just federal elections. All elections should require a photo ID. We've gone over this till we're sick in the freaking mouth of talking about it. You have to have an ID for everything, a photo ID, not a freaking library card. But that's that, you know. It's true. It's true. It's time for an overhaul. It's time for a big overhaul, or nobody's going to trust any of these people. Do you blame them? Of course not. It is the truth. Another truth nuke in UKE. Spencer Pratt, quote, I was in the Valley yesterday, which is over the hill from Hollywood, such as Studio City, Encino, Van Nuys, etc. And the lovely owner said, hey, Spencer, they have naked, it's not really funny, it's true though. They have naked drug addicts in front of the kids when we were trying to get food at the restaurant. This is across the city. He went on to say, I'm going to help these homeless people, these drug addicts. This idea that it's just, we need more beds. But, you know, criminals, like Spencer Pratt said, the criminal end of it, they need and deserve jail. If they're abusing animals, which is what everybody's saying, then they need to go to jail. They just do. But this is the honest to God truth. Honest to God truth. They just need to go to jail. I know a lot of y'all heard a couple of days ago, Donald J. Trump, the president of the United States of America, Axios reported that he told Netanyahu that you're effing crazy. He said, I was a little bit perturbed for constantly fighting with Lebanon. So,
which you were angry with him. You said, are you effing crazy? What are you effing doing? I helped you stay out of jail. Is that true? Did you speak to him in those terms?
I did. I wouldn't say angry. I was a little bit perturbed at his constantly fighting with Lebanon. You know, at some point I said, maybe we got to stop this. We got to stop it. But I have a very good relationship. We've done well together. He always says, we could never have done it, but everybody knows that we could have never done it without the United States. But I've worked very well together. I like Bibi a lot, and I've worked very well with him. We had I'm a wartime president. He's a wartime prime minister. Very important part of the world, and I think we've done very well. We've gotten along very well together.
Yeah, but President Trump, as we all know, he's not going to tell you the plans because that's ridiculous for people to think that he's going to tell you. However, I'm sure he did tell Netanyahu that he's effing crazy because there is some craziness to the wartime warmonger Netanyahu that won't back off. We all know that. You may not admit that in public, but you do know that. Okay? You just do. It's true. California needs time to cover up the cheat. I just got a text message. Of course they do. That's how they do it. And unfortunately, in Mississippi, we still have that 7-day window, which is redonkulous. Okay? Really, it is. Georgia and Mississippi, their excuses for not redistricting this year gets weaker with every SCOTUS opinion. It just does. Now, I'm not trying to PO anybody on the Republican Party because I'm very good friends with, generally speaking, all of them. But this issue is no longer about timing. It's about courage. Okay? It just is. Both Georgia and Mississippi should go ahead and be redistricting this year. Either fight for it or move aside. Now, this is from Michael McClendon, who is, I believe he's in the Senate in Mississippi. Yeah, Senator McClendon. He's been very active on social media platforms talking about this, but this was what he said, the last thing he said on his X account, which is Georgia and Mississippi's excuse for not redistricting this year gets weaker with every SCOTUS opinion. And he said it's courage, fight, or move aside. That's what he said. So take that up with him. Don't blame that on Daryl. I do happen to agree with him, though. Just do. The Democrat Party and their voters are insane anyway, y'all. You know that. We all know that. Also, I was watching a podcast, not the actual Fox News, but a podcast that Sean Hannity does. I was watching parts of the full episode. But the acting attorney general, Todd Blanche, was talking about election integrity on this. Okay. And he's like, we're talking about you do have to show a freaking ID. I mean, that's the only way this is going to ever work. They wanted open borders so they could get Democrat leaders elected. That's the only reason.
That we confront in our investigations and voter integrity there would not be a question if some of the very basic ideas that you're talking about were in place, the most basic of which is just an ID. I mean, the fact that there's an objection to that is, again, like, it's not, I don't even know how to fight back on it. Like, you can't, the federal court, it's not true in every federal courthouse, but in New York, to go into the court, all right, which is a public location, you have to show your ID. So to get into federal court in Lower Manhattan, you have to show your ID. To buy alcohol until you're 40. You have to show your ID.
Have you ever been to a DNC convention?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Have you been to one?
No, I have not. No,
Okay.
no.
I have been to many,
Yeah.
unfortunately, because of my work.
You need like a fingerprint, probably.
And
Fingerprint
I'm
to get
usually
in.
surrounded by massive amounts of security at the time. But to get in, well, usually they have multiple perimeters.
Yeah.
And you need picture ID, and it gets checked multiple times before I can ever get anywhere near where my workplace is. And so I can do my show.
Yep, but they don't want voter ID. They don't want voter ID. You know, we used to say make it make sense. I don't say that anymore because it's never going to make sense to anyone with a brain. Nobody. That's it. Nobody. Cory Booker, good Lord, a highly infected with far left, liberal, progressive values, was talking to Mark Rubio in a hearing. Of course, Rubio would shut Cory Booker down in any common sense debate. But they try so hard to tear everyone down, they being the far left Democrats. It just doesn't work.
Exchange for getting rid of the fissile material out of country, I imagine, is what the highly enriched uranium, we would release sanctions. Is that correct?
Well, it's not just that. It's also their enrichment activity. They would have to, they would have to make very severe and significant concessions on what they intend to enrich in the future.
And already with the March relaxing of sanctions, allowing Iranians to sell oil to the Chinese, estimates have been between $10 and $50 billion they got from that relaxing of sanctions. How much money might we see in a deal in our relaxings of sanctions in order to get rid of the highly enriched uranium and stop their enrichment?
Well, let me just tell you on that portion, the sanctions that were released on Iran were boats on the water. And so that oil was already out in the marketplace. It was sold at market rates, but the sanctions covered, and to the extent we've been able to enforce them, we have the revenues of those sales. So yeah, the Iranian oil was unsanctioned so that it could be sold, but the revenue would have to flow back to block the counts, which our sanctions were able to go after. We've also seized, I believe, 6 vessels in the Indo-Pacific that involved Iranian sanctioned oil on top of it. So that wasn't necessarily a trade. They didn't get $50 billion directly as a result of, they might have gotten some of it. They certainly didn't get the majority of it. They are now losing hundreds of millions of dollars a day in revenue.
Hundreds of $millions a day they're losing. This is a conversation from someone who's smart, someone not so smart. Again, someone that's not so smart, being Cory Booker. It is 20 after the hour, Wednesday, June 3rd, 2026. My name is Daryl Arnold. You are listening to Unleash Media and Talk with Daryl Arnold. Thanks to all of our sponsors, all of our listeners. Check out all of these shows on podcast at Apple, Podbean, Spotify, and more.
Don't forget to check out Cypress Point Resort. Memories are made at Cypress Point. Close to home, yet it feels miles away. At Cypress Point, you can truly get away from it all. You can step back to a simpler time, yet enjoy all the amenities of today. Cameron's Garage is a sports bar and music venue. There's a lunch buffet every day inside Cypress Point. They also have a steakhouse and the Tavern. The Tavern is a quaint little place with live music Wednesday through Saturday. And of course, you've got the Safari Park and Petting Zoo. Don't forget about all the event halls, including the Wedding Chapel and so much more. That's Cypress Point Resort, located at 874 Hollybush Road, Brandon, Mississippi. Contact them at 601-829-1101 or at cypresspointms.com.
We all make promises, big and small. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. I do solemnly swear
to help you when you're in need,
to be considerate and caring, to be your loving, faithful friend,
partner,
child, parent,
neighbor.
One of our most important commitments is to support our nation's veterans. Learn how you can help a veteran going through a difficult time by visiting maketheconnection.net.
If you or a loved one need reliable medical equipment, trust a name Mississippi has depended on for over 20 years. Mobility Medical, located right in Flowood, is your local, family-owned source for mobility and home healthcare solutions. From power wheelchairs and scooters to lift chairs that help you relax in comfort, they've got everything you need to stay independent and live better every day. Need help at home? Mobility Medical offers hospital beds, tables, and essential supplies, and more. What sets them apart? It's their personalized service. Their experienced team works one-on-one with you to find the right equipment. Serving all of Mississippi and beyond with in-store support and delivery options available. Mobility Medical, helping you move better, live better, and stay independent. Visit them today in Flowood or call to learn more.
Welcome back to the Unleashed Media and Talk Show with Daryl Arnold. And yes, he's still unapologetic.
All right, welcome back. It is 7:22 in the morning. My name is Daryl Arnold. You've tuned in. It is Unleashed Media and Talk with Daryl Arnold. And that is the and sign, not the A-N-D when you're searching. So Unleashed Media and Talk with Daryl Arnold. D-A-R-R-E-L-L. All right. Thanks, y'all. 601-918-8409 is the text line. 601-918-8409 is the text line, brought to you by this segment by Electrical Solutions and Services in Pearl, Mississippi. Check them out. Electrical Services and Electrical Solutions, LLC. They're located right here in Pearl. They'll take care of you in central Mississippi. They're also Generac trained dealers and Tesla trained. So get busy. Check out Clayton Pell over there, one of my friends who's the service manager. And tell him Daryl sent you. Tell him Daryl sent you. June 3rd already. June 3rd. The weather this past week has been showing out. Very hot, extremely, and very humid, extremely. Of course, that comes with a lot of showers, a lot of thunderstorms, and it just happened. It just happened. There is a update. President Trump now wants to meet, actually physically meet, with the Ayatollah of Iran. I cannot pronounce his name, and I'm not going to try. But that would be huge. We seem to be getting along right now. I would like to meet him and probably will meet him. And that will make history. That will make history. It will definitely make history if he meets that guy. We shall see, though. We shall see. Because we all know that Iran they're liars. They are. They're liars. But I mean, how do you continue to believe anything that those people say is the question? You know, you can't really believe anything that Iran says. So whether Trump wants to meet with him or not, will it actually happen? I don't know. Probably not anytime soon. It doesn't mean that Trump doesn't want to make a deal. It doesn't mean that he doesn't want to save lives. But that's just that. That's, we'll see either way, though. Bill Maher, the Democrat who's had a show on for decades, decades on HBO. I believe almost back since HBO came out. His question was that he asked on his show, on his newest episode, he asked, how in the heck is Mississippi kicking California's ass in education? And Texas is blowing them away in green energy for way less money. He said, quote, and I'm quoting Bill Maher here, did you know that a black fourth grader in Mississippi is 2.5 times as likely to be proficient in math and reading as one child in California? I did know that, but Mississippi's kicking our butt in education for far way less money, is what Bill Maher said. He said California is 37th in reading and Mississippi 7th or 9th, excuse me. And he said Texas is kicking our butts in, quote, green energy. And I thought California was supposed to be the leaders of all that. The average time to get solar panels connected in Texas is 3 or 4 months. And he said about 1,000 days, okay, 1,000 days faster than it took him at his personally home to have his solar hooked up. And then he went on to say, I'll tell you why, because California's lost it. Nothing gets done. I mean, that's it. It really is the truth. And Bill Maher has been around long enough to know that it is the truth. It is, in fact, the real truth now. Can't keep hiding it. California's a cesspool now. There is a lot more red counties, though. A lot more red people than you realize, though. But they have been shut down and shut out by the far left liberals. David Hall texts this morning on the text line, which is 601-918-8409. I have a question for you. When do you think we're going to start seeing people that we know by the evidence that's been presented that have committed acts against this nation, that tried to undermine a seated president? And this is all true because it's all coming out. All of it. That basically committed treason. When are we going to see the perp walks? When are we going to see the arrests? When are we going to see the indictments? When are they going to pay for what they've done? Thanks for that text message, Mr. David Hall. I would love to know the answers to any of those questions right now. Any of them. And he also said one of the reasons that they have these big problems in California is because the bureaucracy, which is obviously true. Remember the whole thing, bureaucracy is a beast. Well, they're the king and queen of that in California. Of course they are. They're the king and queen of lying, cheating. I guess they're going to get right in there with Minnesota and open some more leering centers so you can learn how to leer. Get it? Learn how to leer? Whatever. Whatever. It's just the truth, though. Unfortunately, it is the truth. It is the truth. Now, I by no means am a doctor, nor do I want to be a doctor, nor have I ever been a doctor. We always put out open opinions on this show. Smoking cigarettes are bad for you, okay? That is a fact. It just is. I know that because I'm a grown man. Anyway, a doctor, Dr. McCullough, actually a respected doctor, in my opinion. He went on the Theo Vaughn podcast and was talking about nicotine and COVID-19. And, you know, I've heard this a bunch, but he really broke it down. He actually broke it down.
Was there anybody who was immune to like any genetics or demographics or cultures that were immune to COVID-19?
There's one adult group, you're going to laugh, but there's one adult group, but no specific ethnicity or culture, but you're going to laugh. Smokers.
Smokers couldn't get it?
They got it very mild cases. And they don't get long COVID. You know why?
Why?
Because smokers maintain a level of nicotine in the bloodstream. They actually smoke frequently enough. Blood nicotine blocks the spike protein as it's interfacing with the nicotinic acetylcholine receptor. Smoking blocks the spike protein. It's amazing. I thought smokers were going to go down.
Well, who knows now then? All those years of this, all those smoking advertisements ended up probably saving people's lives 40 years later.
My God. Well, you know what? We use a nicotine patch, 7 milligram patch, even in non-smokers to help them through long COVID. We use it in addition to the McCullough protocol.
I've seen people recommend that people should just be on nicotine take a nicotine patch. Do you think that's a good idea on a regular basis, or is that just?
I think if they have long COVID, I recommended to a patient yesterday, if they have long COVID symptoms, nicotine, don't forget, is a nootropic. A nootropic is a drug that does make the brain function more effectively. It's a methylxanthine. It's related to caffeine. Caffeine does the same thing as a nootropic. So some people use nicotine little packets or what have you. I grew up in Texas, so the kids were dip snuffing.
And, we used to chew that plug tobacco.
Right. My dad was a chain smoker, but nicotine itself is not. It's addictive, but it's not harmful to the human body. And so is, by the way, caffeine's addictive, but it's not harmful to the human body. What's harmful is the tars that's in tobacco and smoke. That's you might even use the dip snuff. That's related to oral cancer. But the purified forms of nicotine, my understanding is that they're safe.
Yeah, pretty wild. But yeah, they've known for a long time that nicotine itself is not harmful. It's the smoking part of your lungs, obviously. So I'm not going to take up for it. But I will say that the smokers that I know, the heavy cigarette smokers in particular, they did pretty well during COVID. I don't know why, but it is the truth. But again, I'm not giving out advice on that on this show. Okay, just telling you. Anyway, I did have a couple of messages on this video that I posted regarding that. This is not accurate. Let's see. BS, I had a fever at 105. If you had a fever at 105, I don't know what to say, but the question is how long did that last? Because his conversation, if you go back and listen to it correctly, was to do with the long COVID symptoms, not necessarily when you had it. He said it wasn't as bad, but whatever. Molly said that I'm a smoker and have been for over 25 years. I've never had C-19. I took care of my husband and 2 daughters without a mask, different times, never had it. Had blood work done to see if the antibodies were there, never were. There's many people that say that. Now, I'm not saying go out and start smoking, but that is some interesting information out there. That's all I'm saying. That is all I'm saying. Now let's move on to Steve Hilton. Like the guy, had a show on Fox News. British guy, but been born and raised here, basically. Been here his whole life. He has emerged as the front runner. This is awesome news in the California governor primary race. Hell yeah. He is leading the race to secure one of the two spots in November's general election. If he hadn't have been leading that, do you do realize in California with the jungle gym election they have, there could have been two Democrats running against each other. That's crazy. That's why I don't like that. But congratulations so far as they continue to count votes for God knows how long in California. Congratulations to Steve Hilton. Couldn't have happened to a cooler dude. You know, after the race call, Spencer Pratt is projected to advance to a runoff against incompetent mayor Karen Bass. So we hope that happens, okay? Now, I heard Frank and Kim talking about this guy yesterday on the really big show, which is every Tuesday morning, 104.3 FM, and that is 6:30 a.m. to 8 a.m. Talking about the ridiculous Graham Plattner, who is running to unseat Collins, which could really screw up the midterms, just that one race. But a lot of these people are still behind him. They're sick. They're twisted. They're insane. Bernie Sanders, all of them. They're still behind this guy when his own wife threw him under the bus and showed all the sexually explicit texts, all the explicit pictures, and whatever he's sending to all these young women while he's married, of course. I mean, for real, there's only one Democrat, again, with any, quote, dignity that's standing up against this guy. Because they're like, oh, yeah, he's horrible. He's completely bad, but we got to have him so we can, defeat Trump's White House. They're that sick, and they admit it. Except for John Fetterman, of course.
Anything you put down in social media is going to come back to haunt you. That didn't happen it hadn't been that long ago that it wasn't a big problem, but it's going to be a huge problem in the future.
I want to talk about the tolerance level among Democrats in particular.
They don't have a tolerance level. All they have is win, win, win. But Fetterman did blast. This guy with the Nazi tattoo and all the other things that I just mentioned. And good for John Fetterman. He is the only Democrat with common sense out of however many we have, which is a ton. 7:40, we're going to come up on another segment after this quick break. We are unleashed. We are uninhibited. We are unapologetic. It is midweek, Wednesday, June 3rd, 2026.
Support for these programs comes from Electrical Solutions and Services in Pearl, Mississippi, providing licensed electrical contracting services throughout Mississippi for commercial, industrial, and residential projects. also installations, system upgrades, troubleshooting, and emergency electrical repairs. As certified installers for Tesla, charging systems, and a certified dealer for Generac backup power solutions, their team delivers safe, code-compliant workmanship with a commitment to precision and integrity. They are veteran-owned. Their phone number is 769-572-7597.
Don't forget to check out Cypress Point Resort. Memories are made at Cypress Point. Close to home, yet it feels miles away. At Cypress Point, you can truly get away from it all. You can step back to a simpler time, yet enjoy all the amenities of today. Cameron's Garage is a sports bar and music venue. There's a lunch buffet every day inside Cypress Point. They also have a steakhouse and the Tavern. The Tavern is a quaint little place with live music Wednesday through Saturday. And of course, you've got the Safari Park and Petting Zoo. Don't forget about all the event halls, including the Wedding Chapel and so much more. That's Cypress Point Resort, located at 874 Hollybush Road, Brandon, Mississippi. Contact them at 601-829-1101 or at cypresspointms.com.
Every program in the Next ecosystem is designed to meet people where they are and take them where they want to go, in technology and in life. Mississippi Coding Academies is a nonprofit that bridges the digital divide, delivering accessible, affordable, and life-changing technology education across the globe. Funded by grants and donations that are truly making an impact at home and abroad. Learn coding, cybersecurity, and so much more with locations around the state of Mississippi. Go to mscoding.org today and go to your next level.
Wait a minute. You ain't heard nothing yet. Power 104.3, The Pirate. The Pirate is the heartbeat of Pearl. The Pirate.
Welcome back to the Unleashed Media and Talk Show with Daryl Arnold. And yes, he's still unapologetic.
Welcome back. It is 7:43 a.m. Central Time. My name is Daryl Arnold, unleashed, uninhibited, unapologetic on a Wednesday, June 3rd, 2026. Our podcasts are uploaded about an hour after the show at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, iHeartRadio, actually, Google, Amazon, Boomerang, so many other platforms. You got to type in Unleash Media and Talk with Daryl Arnold. And the and is not A-N-D, it is the and sign. So, we have been discussing all kind of election BS going on because we're coming up on the midterms and they'll be here before you can blink an eye. Take 10 people with you, make a plan. Don't think that we automatically win races because it's not the way it works. If you think that way, then you're just actually wrong. You're 100% wrong, unfortunately. Okay, unfortunately. A reminder, we do have an event today at Hamill's Restaurant in Madison Ridgeline on 51, the first Wednesday of every month. Come out for, food, fun, fellowship. All are welcome. Officials are introduced, candidates are introduced and may speak. Please get your food first and join us in the back banquet room. I usually get there about 11:15. But come on out. It's always great times with great people. And it's not just Madison County. It doesn't matter where you're from. If you're a good conservative for some good fellowship, come on out. Or if you're just interested, come on out. A friend of mine in California said, I will never understand how and why people out here in California continue to vote for the same people and policies that have destroyed our beautiful state. Yes. Unbelievable, but true. And they continue to do that, y'all. They just do. They continue to do that, even on ballot initiatives or whatever else. They just continue to do it. And unfortunately, that is the truth. So, what will you do to do your part in November? Hopefully, you will vote. Hopefully, you will vote. That's the truth. Boomerang kids. Let's talk about boomerang kids. Okay. What the hell are you talking about, Daryl? Boomerang kids. Well, here's the deal. The simple radio definition is boomerang kids are adult children who leave home to go to college or whatever, and then return home to live with their parents. Some is due to honest reasons, but most of the time it's not honest reasons. What are some ways that you, as a parent, can talk with your kids about not being a boomerang kid? Well, there's no guarantee, honestly, to prevent an adult child from trying to become a boomerang kid, because life happens in certain situations. But teach them, please, civics, teach them financial literacy. Teach them budgeting, saving, staying away from credit cards, using one for an emergency, understanding debt and interest. But the main thing is teach them how to pay the bills on time and not use a freaking 37% credit card to do that. Financial education and discussion about work and about money during the adolescence are linked to greater financial independence later in life. This has always been a true statement. Always. And if they're going to be in your house, put them on, especially adult children that come back for whatever reason. They got to have a part-time job to pay some bills there. Okay. You can't carry them. They're adults. They need to solve their own problems. Okay. They need to solve their own problems. They need to do the household chores. They need part-time jobs or full-time jobs, but they have to solve their own problems. Here is the biggest problem of Gen Z, of the Gen Z parents, rather. Do not rescue them for every problem. Yeah, I mean, you just can't do that. Don't rescue them for every single problem. It's just not going to go well for you. Parents naturally, obviously want to help, but constantly stepping in can prevent the young adults, because they're adults at this point, the people I'm talking about, I'm not talking about underage kids, from learning how to handle setbacks, budgets, landlords, employers, real world consequences, etc., and so on. Have them pay some rent. Be responsible. Contribute to a utility bill. Set goals, timelines. Encourage work career development. A strong work ethic often matters more than whether someone attends a 4-year college. And boy, do we know that now, because college is not for everyone. There's too many trade schools. There's too many things going on. But the main thing you have to do with anyone, including your own kid that is an adult, set the clear expectations. Do not say you can stay here forever. Just say, hey, you know what? We're happy to help while you get established, but let's go ahead and create a plan now that includes a timeline. Supporting and enabling are two different words. There's a big difference in supporting and enabling. And the goal isn't to make sure that kids never come back home. That's not what I'm saying at all. Everybody needs help sometimes. But the goal is to raise adults who can stand on their own 2 feet, period. That's just all there is to it. That's all there is to it. And you want them to progress towards not only financial independence, but just independence in general. Now, I'm not a counselor. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychiatrist, psychologist, and I'm certainly not a financial advisor. But I would think that everything that I just talked about, which this is a new popular subject, Boomerang Kids is the name of the story, which Gordon Dill, I got the story from Gordon Dill. I would think that all of that I just mentioned is 100% common sense. Again, it always goes back to that. It always goes back to common sense, ladies and gentlemen. It just does. And that's what's missing. Again, that's what's missing. Common sense. Now, we all know in the music industry, but you may not know as a fan or as a non-fan or as a general citizen, Chris Robinson and the Black Crowes. Well, it's actually Chris Robinson and his brother. They basically are the Black Crowes and have been since the beginning. They are both assholes. And if you've been around the music industry for a long time, you know that. And I'm not even talking about their politics. They're just flat out snobby buttholes. But now that they include liberal, progressive stuff involved on top of being an a-hole, they got it thrown in their face, and it couldn't have happened to two better people than Chris Robinson and his brother from the Black Crowes. Chris Robinson went off in Florida, of all states. In Florida, the biggest state in the country for veterans. Veterans. Anyway, Chris Robinson went off on the Black Crowes fans at their recent concert there, as some of them began chanting USA. And after he went off, it resulted in a cascade of boos. But what was so incredible, and you can go look at the videos yourself. You don't have to believe me. Okay, I'm going to play the audio, but you can go look at the videos yourself. It's not just some of the fans got up and walked out. It's literally like the whole freaking arena, almost amphitheater rather, walked out. I mean, it went from packed to 4 or 5 rows of people left. So that's what happened. You know, so these narcissist musicians that want to get involved in our politics, you may want to just shut up and keep singing. Because all you're doing is make us disrespect you more. And we're certainly not going to buy your music or your expensive tickets anymore. Okay?
Booing us, some of us are not afraid. And we most assuredly are not ignorant. So, thank you.
Black Crowes singer Chris Robinson is feeling the heat after he slammed people in the crowd recently who started a USA chant. Chris responded, "I don't know what you have to be so proud of." After the recent cancellation of many artists from the America 250 concert, Patrick and I are here to discuss if there are going to be ramifications for these somewhat political stances by musical artists.
Yeah, I believe it is going to be a lot of consequences, which is only, unfortunately, going to hurt the music business worse.
For those of you booing us, some of us are not afraid. And for those of you booing us, some of us are not afraid. And we most assuredly are not.
Mm-hmm. Well, you should be afraid. You should be afraid at your bank account. And USA, he goes, what is there to be proud of about the USA? Dude, go away. Go away. Washed up. One album. You had more albums. Well, your biggest hit, your second biggest hit was a cover song. Okay. And on top of that, you've always been a-hole, period. And this is just what's happened to these narcissists. Imagine pissing off, though, over half of a venue and then all of a sudden playing to almost nobody. You know? And it took place in Florida. Anyway, it's totally not rock and roll anymore. It's just not. If you hate half of your fans, basically, or dog out half of your fans, good luck is all I can say. Good freaking luck. Because it's not going to last forever there, buddy. You know, the only reason Bruce Springsteen and people like him can get away with it, they're old. They don't ever have to work again if they don't want to, ever. But you other bands out there might want to take some advice and keep politics out of your mouth. Just keep it out of your mouth. I'm not saying you have to support Trump. Just keep it out of your mouth. Don't support anybody, whatever you want to do. But you don't want to alienate fans regardless of what side they're on. That's just bad business. That's nothing else but bad business. Unleashed Media and Talk with Daryl Arnold. Wednesday, June 3rd. I've had a great time. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks to all of our sponsors. Cypress Point Resort, that's cypresspointms.com, mobilitymedicalinc.com, Electrical Services and Solutions in Pearl, Mississippi, and mscoding.org, mscoding.org. We are unleashed, uninhibited, unapologetic. See ya.
Thank you all for tuning in. Hashtag unfiltered, hashtag unapologetic, America First Talk at its best. Where we party the right way. See you next time, or else.